Hello, this is Shay. Thank you for watching a quick demonstration of Meraki API action batches. So what you see here is I have an organization with just one network. We're going to go ahead via 3 action batch API calls, create a bunch more, 7 more networks to be precise, along with adding their devices and a bunch of configuration settings, again, just with 3 API post calls. So you can see here, I'm running a script here in my Python IDE, and first I need to put in my API key, which then retrieves different organizations I have access to, in this case just an API lab org, as well as putting in my name and things like custom tags for our devices, networks, and switch ports when we configure those things. First thing we're going to do is going to go ahead and make one action batch post for creating networks. I'm not actually going to run the create networks in Python, but what I'll do to show you is we are going to run this in Postman. So I have, in this case, Postman loaded with my API lab. And what you'll see is we are running, in this case, one post action batch with confirm set to true. What this means is we're telling dashboard, we want you, Meraki, to do these actions straight away without having to preview them. Synchronous true as well, which means that this is going to be a synchronous batch. So immediately tell me whether my actions succeed or not. So you can have up to 20 actions in a synchronous batch, and below are the actions, right? So in this case, creating the networks for San Diego, Boston, et cetera, and what we've done here is we're pulling from a CSV file. So the CSV file specifies the different locations, device serial numbers that to add to these sites, different IP addresses for management interfaces, as well as the management VLAN and the addresses of these devices. So you can see here, because in computer science we start counting at 0, that's where we start off at San Diego, all the way through, of course, number 6 at Liverpool. So if I switch back now to Postman, you'll see that our action batch has completed and returned back with a true flag or true status. So if I refresh my browser, we should now see that there are 7 new networks. However, there's no devices yet at this point. So let's go ahead and go to the next part. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and add some devices. So in this case, we are also not going to have Python run the post call directly. We're going to do this in Postman once more and show you that we have, in this case, an asynchronous, right, set to false batch. And what this means is we got to reply instantly. And dashboard now has this batch queued up and is processing it in the background. So what did this batch do? Well, in this case, we claimed a bunch of devices into different networks. To be precise, 4 devices each, because we have a full stack. And what you'll see here is we've set up these networks to be full stack, MX security SD-WAN, MS switching, MR wireless, MV cameras, and all systems manager as well on these networks. So one thing to mention is that action batches are atomic, meaning that all of these actions will complete or not. There won't be an instant where you get, say, half complete, half non-complete, and you have to figure out, how much work do I have to do left. So if you have an error, basically nothing will be sent through, and nothing will be processed. If there are no errors, then everything will be processed successfully. So at this point, if I refresh my browser, we'll see that we have 4 devices added to each of these networks, right? And I can click in through to, say, San Diego, where we just finished Cisco Live, and we can see here loading up some of these pages that while we have devices added, right, for instance, on the access point, there is not yet any configuration. The device doesn't even have a name. It's the default MAC address. There's no tags or nodes, anything like that, or even an address. Same thing with some of these other pages, and we'll show it for the next step here that let's go ahead and actually create these settings, right? So in the Python code, what we're doing now is we're going to run a synchronous action batch for each of these networks, and what we're doing here is we're configuring things like the management interfaces, the VLANs, the group policies, switch port settings, right? Device attributes, of course. You can see at the bottom of the screen here, the first 2 networks have already finished processing. So if I switch back, let's go into, say, San Diego. You can see here before I refresh, there's just a default 192.168 VLAN. After refreshing, we now have 4 VLANs created as part of the single action batch. This action batch also configured a bunch of switch ports for us. So you'll see that we have ports that are now named with access ports that's configured, different tags. And then for the devices themselves, we have a name for the device, an address, of course, that shows that we're here in San Diego at the convention center right after Cisco Live ended earlier. We have tags and then also notes, right? So if someone finds that there's an issue, who installed this AP incorrectly, right? Go call up Shay. And of course, we also added a bunch of settings in group policies. So you may know that group policies touches upon many different types of settings, things like layer 3 and some firewall rules, traffic shaping rules, wireless if you want to segment different clients on different VLANs, security settings as well, and scheduling, bandwidth settings. So what we've done here is we're going to actually add a bunch of group policies, right, for different types of users, and also different types of settings within each of those group policies. So you now see that, for instance, we have an executive policy, pretty straightforward, no bandwidth limits, prioritize voice and video traffic, whereas for, say, our guest policy, only enabled on certain hours, days of the week, deny traffic to internal, for instance, as well as peer-to-peer BitTorrent, traffic shade video, so that we don't overrun our network, segment the guests so that they're on their own VLAN, so VLAN 4 as a guest network, and also block bad websites, right, while listing ones that are good that you want to have access to. So that's action batches in a nutshell. We can also blink some lights, do some other fun things like getting some snapshots in this case. So if I now switch over to my WebEx Teams client, go ahead and share this client. What you should see is a screenshot posted coming up. So go ahead and share this client. You can see here, we just had the first screenshot of the camera here overlooking the Coronado Bridge here in San Diego. And what this is doing is, of course, retrieving what the camera, which we've added earlier as part of this network, what it sees currently, and then posting that message along with the snapshot in our WebEx Teams space using a chatbot. All right, check out our additional resources that we have on Meraki.io or developercisco.com/Meraki. Hope you guys enjoyed this demo, and thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.